Policy Circle for having me here. Simone de Beauvoir had said several decades ago, actually, one is not born a woman, one becomes a woman. And that is where the crux lies, that India has to change culturally and sociologically in terms of mindsets. But let's start from the very beginning, as they say. Let's start with independent India. It was extremely interesting that the constitution gave equal rights to women. We didn't have a suffragette movement like the West had, or rather, with that intensity, we got equal voting rights. There was rapid reform which happened on the Hindu Marriage Act at that stage. So the enabling environment was created right in the early decades for having equity based domestic growth. But if we look at it, what went wrong? Or rather, why didn't we capitalize? There's no wrong about it. I stand corrected. But why was India not able to capitalize in terms of its leapfrogging the women into a space of their own? So from my study of government policies and their impact, one was that government policy focused largely on maternity and healthcare for women. Uh, the Vishaka judgment, of course, was a game changer in the 80s when it brought in a certain sense of safety for women at their workplace and the right to make or take their, have their say. But we can say that until India started turning and becoming a part of the global village of bound by technology, frankly speaking, the restriction, the self awareness of women was, I will get married, I will have a child, and I will be a good sister, daughter, mother, etc. And that is where the crux lies. The idea is to create self awareness. And here I would like to bring to the notice of the audience that the biggest self awareness has come out in the voting rights. And that's where you see from 2014 onwards that the self awareness of women is translating itself into electoral results. And that's where campaigns have now started moving, and very actively so. The technology revolution, the self awareness revolution, the soap opera revolution, the television revolution, whatever you want to put it. But it's all based around a particular ecosystem where that sense of empowerment is coming in. Yes, I agree with Mary that job opportunities are limited. And yes, I agree with Anjali that you join in the beginning and then you drop out very fast. But that could be a mental laze also, or it could be the sheer domestic pressure. I personally believe that for me, working was very easy. It was never a choice not to work. But office was tough because we are still working with male dominated scenarios. The old traditional, it will take another 10 years also. And then let's not forget, India has got a very vast population. But if you look at it, there is a revolution which is happening in terms of self awareness. Does that self awareness translate itself into long term employment gains? Does it translate itself into economic empowerment? It definitely does. One of the most primary moves the government made was in the JAM Trinity. And we find that women got a lot of the Jandan accounts. And we find that it gives them economic empowerment. We also look at Mudra, which focuses on women. And I don't have the statistics with me, but colloquially, I can definitely conclude that the lowest NPAs will be coming from there. And maybe Anjali will be in a better space because she's in that sector. We also have a very active campus recruitment policy where at the higher end, women recruitment is encouraged. And girls are given a certain amount of uh, preference over boys in the initial stages. What is missing? And that neither the government can address nor anybody can address except for the families, which is to stand on your own 2 feet and have an awareness. Yes, I can, and yes, I'm going to be totally gender neutral. When we speak of women representation on boards, which is abetted by uh, government and legislation, and SEBI comes down very heavily on boards when you don't have adequate women representation. Let's not forget it's actually a gender neutral space. Board notes are gender neutral. Does having a woman over there, does it fulfill a goal of giving a space to them, or does it fulfill a goal of the entity benefiting? I would rather that we move towards an awareness where the latter is more important than the former. And that's where the game will change. All three of your panelists, Srinath, are women who have made their own mark in their own ways. And that's without, I think, at a time when I presume benefits were not there in the educational space, either in terms of scholarships. And here I would like to draw attention to the fact that the lower income groups are really benefiting from some of the scholarship schemes which the government has recently launched, in which there is tax relief also. Or we didn't have such a campus recruitment benefit. I drifted from college to college with the only option available of taking the civil services or becoming a lawyer. But today, when I speak with my young son, he competes with an added problem that the space in a pie of 100, the space available to boys is less. So, what is a problem, I think, is more a question of self awareness. But I'm getting repetitive now, so I will hand the mic back to you, Srinath,